Hi guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be continuing the conversation of the 6th diminished scale, which we started in the previous video. If you haven't seen that one, up here in the cards I should put a link there that you can find that video, and make sure you understand the concept of that one before you tackle this one. So in that video we talked about the major 6th diminished scale, so today of course it follows that we'll look at the minor 6th diminished scale. So we take exactly the same approach that we did with the major scale to turn it into the major 6th diminished scale, which is adding a flattened 6th. But our starting scale in this instance is actually the melodic minor scale. So the melodic minor scale sounds and looks like this. And if we add our flat 6 to it, we end up with this. So again, by adding that flat 6th in, our scale resolves nicely onto beat 1 of the next bar, because we now have 8 notes to an octave rather than 7. So the real fun starts when we start to look at chord scales within these 6th diminished scales. So the minor 6th diminished scale is a minor 6 chord followed by a diminished 7 chord. So as I said in the previous video, do make sure you're familiar with your chord rotations. Again, you can learn the method up here how to tackle chord rotations, but you should be able to see your chord rotations like this. With this minor 6th diminished shape, it would look like this. Remember, a minor 6 is the same as a minor 7 flat 5. And your diminished 7 rotations look like this. And all we do is play those, one from the minor 6th, one from the diminished, then move to the next rotation, one from the minor 6th, one from the diminished, next rotation, and so on and so forth. So that looks like this. Next rotation. Next rotation. Next rotation. Back where we started. So it gives us this really nice sound. A minor 6 chord almost to me sounds more minor than a minor 7 chord. I don't know why. Minor 7 kind of just sounds quite cool and chilled, whereas adding the 6 to it starts tugging on those heartstrings a bit. I don't know what it is. And then the diminished chord, of course, is outlining that altered dominant chord. So if we're in the key of C minor here, then these diminished chords are highlighting a kind of G altered. Now we want to become familiar with different intervallic structures that live within this scale. In doing so, we can start to create some slightly less obvious sounds, and we can really draw on some clashes that live within this scale. So let's start by looking at the seconds that live within this scale. There's a lot of semitones in this one, so there's quite jarring sounds here, but again, when we couple them with the thirds and we use these seconds as a tension and the thirds as a release, is when these become really powerful. So the seconds look like this. And the thirds look like this. So when we use the second as a tension and third as a release, we get this sort of sound. And you really hear the yearning in those seconds as they resolve down to the thirds. I don't know what it is, but it's something about that tension and release that we really respond to as humans. Really beautiful. So the next exercise is, instead of using 6th chords, let's see what happens if we use 7th chords. So diatonically, a 7th structure within this scale would give us a minor major 7. And each of those notes is simply going to move up through the scale to its next scale degree. Again, some really interesting sounds in there by simply moving the 7th chord structure through that chord scale. So finally, let's look at fourths and fifths. So fourths are a really great minor sound. I talked about our fourths minor in the video, which you can see up here, and just explored my thoughts on that subject. But I really like fourths. They give us this really cool modern sound, very Herbie, very Wayne Shorter, that sort of era, very McCoy Tyner. So let's hear how fourths sound when we move that structure through our minor 6th diminished scale. I really like that sound. We even got a few Hendrix chords in there, which is always fun. And finally, fifths. So these are really tricky under the fingers. I really struggle with these myself. Don't worry if you struggle with these too. Even if you simply use these as an exercise to better familiarise yourself with the intervals of the minor 6th diminished scale or any scale, and you never actually end up using them in your playing, that's completely fine. Just studying your scales, any chosen scale, whatever you're currently looking at, and tackling it using different intervallic structures, even if they are a bit too challenging on your hand, if you can see them on the guitar, that's the important thing. It's going to help your overall knowledge of that scale. So some really tricky chords there, but some beautiful sounds. Now, in terms of applying those slightly more modern sounds, they're probably best for use in either your own compositions or in more modern fusion contexts. They really remind me of kind of Holdsworth, and my brother pointed out in the last video that they were quite reminiscent of Ben Monder, and that's certainly something I'd agree with. Some really nice modern sounds, probably not suitable for your sort of jazz standards jam night, but use them however you like. The world is your oyster. So I hope you found that study of the minor 6th diminished scale relatively enlightening and you feel a bit more confident with that scale. As with everything, the way to really internalise these things is simply to use them. Don't spend hours and hours of your life watching videos about these things and spend minutes and minutes of your life actually playing them. Try and swap that on its head. Watch a few minutes of content on a topic and then just explore it over and over again in all sorts of different contexts. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what else you'd like to see covered on this channel. Please do give this video a like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share with any of your friends who might find this useful. Top tip that I realised this week, guys, is use your subscriptions tab on YouTube. There's a subscriptions tab, check it out. Everyone you've ever subscribed to is on there, but they don't show you these videos unless you click that notification bell. So I went on my subscriptions this week and saw all these great players that I'd completely forgotten about, who I'd subscribed to maybe years ago, and they haven't been coming up on my feed, and all this content I've been missing out on, so do ding that notification bell. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, but drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out, and I heard you find it difficult to